Hello and welcome to episode number 2 of the Dr. Mark Sohmer Show, which is based on the book I wrote titled, My People Perish for Lack of Knowledge. The purpose of this show, based upon this book, is to bring people up to a higher place of knowledge and understanding that helps them improve the quality of their life. The teachings in these shows are just the basics. To get the full impact of this information, you will want to order the ebook at thelordandthedancer.com. This show is part 2 of laying down the foundation and the basics of how and why this world reacts to the things that we speak. I explained in the last show, this is where we will start to get into the nuts and bolts of understanding quantum physics. But don't let the title Quantum Physics worry you, because I will explain how it all works so that everybody can understand the concepts. I last talked about how everything in this physical realm is alive because the Creator Himself is life. When I say everything, that's what I mean, everything. Air, wood, dirt, rocks, metal, everything. But how can this be? Well, let's see what quantum physics says about this. Science has discovered that the basic elements of everything we can see and touch is made up of alpha and beta particles, quarks, leptons, photons, neutrons, and electrons. But do you know that these tiny elements are made up of energy? What do we know about energy? We know that energy can change forms, but it cannot be destroyed. A simple example of this is your car's battery. It runs on 12 volts DC, which stands for direct current. This means that the flow of energy only goes in one direction. But now your house in many countries runs on 110 volts AC, or alternating current, which means that the energy goes in one direction and then switches and goes back in the opposite direction, and it does this about 120 times every second. Now these two forms of energy can be converted from AC to DC and from DC back to AC by a converter. This is an example of changing forms. Okay, but where does energy come from? It comes from the Creator, who is life. Our energy, or our universe, is one big energy power plant. The sun, the wind, lightning, the Earth's magnetic field, and all the planets spinning in the universe have gravity. All are forces of energy. Almost everything that is man-made runs on electricity. Now look at the human body. It runs on electrical impulses, which moves our muscles and activates our brain so we can think. Energy also generates frequencies, which I will talk about in later shows, but here is a little something to chew on in the meantime. Science has discovered that frequencies of sound can promote healing in our bodies. If you look up everything I talk about here on the internet, you will find hours of reading about all this information I am giving you here at the Dr. Mark Sohmer Show. One good source is the website Healing Frequencies by Del Hungerford. She reveals some absolutely amazing information about sound and music. But now back to the energy phenomenon. Remember, everything in our physical world has the ability to hear and understand what we say. Water is a good example. It has been proven in experiments that if you take water and put it in 2 separate rooms and freeze it under different conditions, you will get 2 completely different results. When they put it in the first room, they would say nice things and play pleasant music, and when the water freezes, it would form beautiful ice crystals. But in the other room, they would play music that was full of anger and hate and say things that were not good to the other water. And the sample they noticed had ice crystals that became ugly and distorted. They noticed that the same thing happens with plants. Let's look at what the laws of creation tells us about this in biblical times. In the book of Matthew, chapter 8, 23 to 27, it says, "Then Jesus got into the boat, and his disciples followed him. Suddenly a ferocious storm came upon the lake, so that the waves swept over the boat. But Jesus was sleeping. His disciples went and woke him up, saying, 'Lord, save us, we are going to drown.' He said, 'O you of little faith, why are you so afraid?' Then Jesus got up and said to the storm, 'Peace, be still.' And the storm immediately became calm. The men were amazed and asked, 'What kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him.'" But now notice something here. Jesus spoke directly to the storm. The wind and the waves not only heard what he said, but they understood what he said, and they did what he commanded. Wow. What kind of revelation knowledge is this? Let that sink in a little bit. Can this actually be true? I personally know this to be true. Many times I have called for rain to come when it has been so hot, dry, or smoggy, and many times it has. Did it happen every time? No. But it has happened enough times to prove that it most certainly can and does happen. Even when I checked the weather report and there was not any rain predicted in a 10-day forecast, yet within a day or two we've had rain. You see, all of these miracles that Jesus did was not just meant to be done by him alone. He told us to do these miracles also. In John 14:12, he says, "Truly I say unto you, whoever believes in me will do the works that I have been doing, and they," meaning you and me, "will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father." So, do you want to know a secret? The book of life, the Bible, has never been wrong. Everything that it says can or is going to happen always does, sooner or later. The next story is about two brothers, Cain and Abel, which happens to be the first recorded murder in the known history, but still shows that everything has a form of life within it. In Genesis 4:8-10, it says, "Cain talked with his brother Abel, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and killed him. And the Lord said to Cain, 'Where is your brother?' And he said, 'I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?' And God said, 'What have you done? Listen, the voice of your brother's blood cries to me from the ground.'" Now this is a powerful statement. Most of us have seen TV stories about someone who was killed and that their blood was crying out for justice, right? Well, let's see what else the laws of creation says about these things that can hear and understand what is said. In Genesis chapter 3, it tells us that God created everything, the trees, the plants, the fish, the animals, and told them to be fruitful and multiply. Not only did all the animals, trees, and vegetation hear what God said, but they also understood what he said, and they did what he commanded. So this tells us that even things that grow from the ground can comprehend what we say and understand, because that's what they have been told to do. So let's look at some other interesting facts in this subject. In Luke chapter 19 talks about a crowd of people following Jesus, and the religious leaders of the times asked Jesus to tell them to be quiet. In verse 40, his reply was, "I tell you, if these people were to keep quiet, the rocks would cry out." It talks about a similar story in Habakkuk 2:11. "The stones of the wall will cry out, and the beams of the woodwork will echo it." Now, that's amazing to think that stones and wood could have a conversation. Isaiah 55:12, "For you shall go out with joy and be led with peace. The mountains and the hills shall break forth into singing, and the trees of the field shall clap their hands." Now, I want to stop right here and say that some people find it hard and even impossible to believe much of what I have been telling you right here has been going on. I mean, who has ever seen a tree clapping their hands and the rocks crying out? But think about and remember this. There is another dimension apart from our physical world that we can't see, and many people don't even have a clue as to what is going on out there that we don't even know about. So consider this. Since the basic elements of all matter is energy, it stands to reason that everything in our physical creation has some form of life within it. And being that all forms of life can hear and understand what is being said, then this means that if something is operating outside of the laws of nature or its intended purpose for a peaceful and prosperous lifestyle, then you need to tell it to change. Do you know what the main ingredient to success in all of this is? You have to absolutely, without a doubt, believe that what you say will happen. The laws of creation and the book of life tells us in Matthew 17:20 that if we sincerely believe what we say will happen, we can move mountains and nothing shall be impossible. Now that's a pretty bold statement. So thanks for watching this show. And the next Dr. Mark Sohmer show, episode number 3, is where we will start to get deeper into the nuts and bolts of these teachings. You can certainly do not want to miss anything from now on. Thank you for watching the Dr. Mark Sohmer show. It will bring you a step closer to moving those mountains that stand between you and the prosperity that you not only desire, but belongs in your life. Be sure to check us out at thelordandthedancer.com and tell a friend that you are the only thing that stands in the way of fulfilling your destiny and your purpose in this world.